We are Christina,
Oneida,
Alicia,
Colleen.
Welcome to 4NPs Podcast.
This is a podcast by 4NPs. 4NPs, advanced practice nurses, students, and anyone interested in the medical arts.
That's the number 4 NPS podcast.
If you have a topic you'd like to see covered, please feel free to email us at 4npspodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us through our social media.
On this episode, we welcome Sandra Pagenta. Dr. Sandra Pagenta is a nurse practitioner, urologic proceduralist, and the host of the Doctor Nurse Podcast. Sandra's podcast is designed to inspire and encourage other nurses and doctor nurses to share their journeys, inspire, and create change. We hope you enjoy.
welcome, Sandra. We're so glad to have you on our podcast.
Thanks for having me on, ladies. This is so much fun.
We're looking forward to it. Yes. So you mentioned, that you had listened to our podcast, and we're so thankful that, you were able to hear us and listen to a little bit about our journeys. We would definitely love to hear about your journey and where it all started for you.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, it's so neat to share it after I do the majority of my podcast is just pouring questions into people. So to have my cup kind of poured into is really neat. So thank you for the opportunity. So my journey started back at the architecture building at the University of Florida. I was 18 years old. I was sitting with my mom during the orientation at the University of Florida. And my mom asked me, you have to pick a major. They make you pick a major like during your orientation. So I was, a kid and I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. I've always wanted to be a doctor. So I was like, Mom, I'm going to do pre-med. And she's like, okay. And I had an uncle that was a physician, and I watched him live for the holidays. I went over to their house, and when I was there, I noticed he was getting up and leaving, like the room, the house, he was leaving. And so his kids were pretty much raised by their mom. And so I decided I didn't want that life. And as much as I wanted to be a physician, I wanted to be a mom. I was 18. I wasn't even married. I had no idea, but I just knew that having my mom at home was super sweet and important to me. So I said, what else can I do? And my mom said, well, why not be a nurse? So I chose nursing that day, and I kind of never looked back. And then throughout my bachelor's degree at the University of Florida, they kept pushing the nurse practitioner role. And I'm really glad they did, because eventually, after hearing it 10 million times from your professors, I was like, let me check this out before I just pretend like I didn't hear it. And so when I read about the role, I decided that's what I want to do. That's it. So, so I went to work as a nurse on a med-surg floor for about 2 minutes before I realized it was pretty tough work. So that nurse practitioner role that my teachers had told me about just kept going like, all right, come back to me. So I enrolled the following year, got my master's. I was about 23 or 24 when I became a nurse practitioner after working as an oncology nurse. And then I did some med-surg nursing while I was going through school for my master's degree. And then I remember I was sitting at the graduation for my master's degree next to my girlfriend, Kim, and they had when it just started to roll out the DNP. And I sat there and I looked at her and I said, I'm not done. And she's like, What do you mean? We're at graduation. We're done. And I'm like, no, I wanted to be a doctor all those years ago underneath the architecture building at the University of Florida. I'm going to go be a doctor in nursing. I'm not done. So yeah, I worked for a year as a nurse practitioner in GI, which I think one of you guys is
Christina.
A GI nurse practitioner. Yeah, Christina. Christina's a GI nurse practitioner. And so I did that for a year and then went back, and I actually got my degree paid for by the university that I worked with. I did not know this, but NPs out there, future NPs out there, you can actually get your DNP paid for if you work at a university. They pay, as part of your benefits, a certain amount of credits if you work for the university setting. And so they paid for, a part of my benefit package was getting X amount of college credits paid for. So I just took the max amount I could take and I slowly knocked out my DNP. I graduated with my DNP in 2016 after completing my master's in 2012. So I kind of did this piecemeal approach while I worked. As an NP, I literally got paid to get my DNP. So yeah, and now I'm a doctor of nursing. So yeah, that little girl at 18, we figured it out. So yeah, that's my story.
I love it.
That's awesome.
That's an awesome story. I'm so glad you shared that. And I want to just touch a little bit on the fact that when you mentioned that, I think it was your uncle who, was a physician and you just never saw him. I feel like, it's important to note that as a nurse practitioner, you can almost have the best of both worlds because you're a provider, but there's also so many doors that open and options where you don't have to work 80 hours a week, which can be really hard for especially, women as, mothers and take that role on. It's so hard to do both. Really, it is. And somewhere there's something that has to give.
I 100% agree with you. I think what you're describing is a falsehood. I think a lot of women like to believe that you can have one or the other. You can't have both. And I think the reality is that you might be able to have both, but it will have to look not necessarily like you would like for it to look like. And so when I got my DNP, I was actually it's kind of a crazy story. And this is really what sparked the podcast. When I got my DNP, I was actually getting let go from my job. And people are like, what? You were getting fired? Yeah, I was getting fired. And the story is basically that I was working as a GI nurse practitioner and my boss told me, we don't have room for you next year.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm sorry. He brought me in with almost tears in his eyes because I'm his youngest NP. I'm single. I'm always doing whatever he wants me to do. He's like, oh, go do that over there. And I'll go do it or whatever. I always was super easy to get along with. And we were actually kind of friends. So my chief brings me in and he tells me in 3 months, I'm not going to have space for you on our staff. He's like, I wanted to give you enough time to find something else. And I was like, I've never been fired from a job ever in my life. And so I had no idea what this meant for me. I didn't even know what he was talking about. He's like, you're not making enough money. You're not generating enough income. And I was like, oh my gosh, have I been that asleep that I have not been paying attention in my career to what income and what value I was bringing to my job to the point where now I'm getting let go? So I immediately, because I'm getting my doctorate, I'm about to be 30 and I'm about to be unemployed. I'm a mess. And so I actually started applying for jobs and found that I was super hireable. I got 5 job offers and I ended up getting, on top of the 5 job offers, a $35,000 pay increase with these jobs that I was getting offered. And so that's when I realized we don't know how valuable we are. We just take the morsels from the table of the king and we say thank you. And yet we should be sitting at the table. And so that's what really started this journey. And the job that I currently do, I do procedures. And so I'm able to evaluate my worth monetarily very easily. So I just measure my procedures, how much they cost, and then what I generate as far as my value, because I never want to be in that position again where I didn't realize that I was being evaluated on a numeric system that I didn't understand. So,
Sandra, were they looking at your patient load, and what was your patient load at that point in time?
Yeah, so I was actually working inpatient. So I don't know if Christina can probably touch on kind of her job in GI clinic, but I saw patients in clinic and my clinics were never full. I wasn't doing the scheduling, right? It wasn't like I was going out into the street and saying, hey, you got a GI issue, come in here and let me see you. But I was also working on the floor in the acute care setting. So I would go see patients in the hospital with acute GI issues.
Right.
But the billing is different for, hospital versus clinic.
Right. But that sounds like that's a them error as far from a business perspective, because they should have been, if they're in control of that scheduling, they should have been putting you in places where they could make the money from you. So, and they should have been filling your schedule in order to do that, and they weren't. So that's a problem on their end, not on your end.
Yeah. And you learn so much when you work for a big setting like that. Again, you're not working for yourself, which is kind of parlaying off of, my podcast and you guys' podcast as well about nurses being empowered. And so I learned through that process, Sandra, empower yourself, wake up. Like, don't just be trusting that they're looking out for you.
Yeah, I love that. You were interviewed on Scrub Caps and Sippy Cups, which is another podcast. I loved that interview with you. It was great. And on that, you said, I think every nurse needs to know this. You want nursing to work for you. You have to realize that your degree makes you a businesswoman and that your intellectual property made you a business owner. You own the business of your mind. And I loved every single thing about those statements because that's part of the message that we're trying to get across in our podcast is that you're so valuable and we come out and we don't think we are. We all don't think we are. We all think, I don't know, I'm going to kind of tiptoe around this job. I'm not sure that I could do that. I'm not sure I have enough. I don't know what that is or why we always think we're not enough, but it is very valuable. So I do want to know a little bit about that moment when you really realized that and kind of how you switched gears.
So I was, whenever I lost my job in GI, that was when I felt at my low, right? Everybody has that low of man, I am trash. I didn't even know I was doing poorly. And I'm losing my job. And so that was a low point. When I figured out that nursing could work for me was when I applied for, whenever I the current job that I have now, I realized that I could do things that I didn't even realize nurse practitioners could do. And I began to see that nurse practitioners didn't know what else they could do because I didn't know. And I felt like I can't be the only one who doesn't know this. After I had experienced kind of that low, realized, whoa, I can find work like this and I can actually find better work. And then I could actually find a job doing the things that I would like to do, such as procedures, because that was one of the things when you work in GI, I really wanted to do procedures in GI. And they told me I couldn't because I was just a nurse practitioner. And then when I found this job in urology, they handed me a scope and they were like, see ya. And I got to go do procedures and I get to go into bladders and find bladder cancers. And then they're like, you can burn them out if you want. And I'm like, wait, I can keep this guy from going to the operating room I can treat his tumors. What? And so if I would have looked back at that girl that was getting fired at 30, I would have told her don't worry, you're going to be able to do this and so much more. And I think the real turning point was the birth of my son. So I had a baby about 2 years ago.
Congratulations.
I think all of you guys are moms, right? I feel like I was looking at everyone's story and it's just moms galore. And so I was just okay, so they get it. Once you have a kid, time stops. Life's something happens, and my kid was born and I just decided it's time for nursing to work for me. I need this job that I have poured myself into for almost 15 years to start to give back to the life that I want. And so I decided I was going to take it by the reins and I asked for a part-time status at my job. And I just, again, we were saying about the work-life balance, it's not perfect, meaning that there are days that it's hard because I've been at work all day and my kid is like, Mommy, and I'm like, Mommy's tapped out. But most of the time, I do feel like I'm okay, I got 2 days, I can do this. And then I'm back to being at home and being present at home.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my moment that I started realizing with the birth of my son, I needed this to be something that worked with me and not against me.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just love that so much. And it's so true. And that's definitely a message that we hope that our listeners hear and get from us from some of our discussions, because we're all learning that about ourselves too at the same time. So we're in that mode of going, hey, wait a second, we can do this. We can this is something that we can do. And maybe we can bring people along the ride with us and make them feel like they're not alone and that it's okay to do that. Yes. It's not too big. It's not too scary. It's okay.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I love that. I love that you want to bring other people with you. And when I was listening to your podcast and you guys were giving each other like hints on your NCLEX or your NP boards, and you guys were all giving each other like, yeah, and then you told me to do this. And then I realized like I could go do that. And so I signed up really quick and I was like, that is so cool. Like to have other NPs that are looking out for one another so you don't feel like this little lone island.
Yeah.
I think is so special.
Exactly.
Yeah, we definitely have called each other over the years for all sorts of things that came up that, we know that one of us went through or is going through, or maybe we just want like, just another head in the game to say, hey, I need to kind of think through this. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here or why this is like this or why I feel like this. Or so we've all had that with each other, and we're hoping to bring that out to other nurse practitioners and nursing students and anyone who feels like they need it.
Yeah. I love it.
And what I think is spectacular is that although, I appreciate there's so many other nurse practitioner podcasts that have more, specific information about specific roles, diagnostic labs, things like that. I think it's also important to have these discussions so that way the new NP understands the enormous amount of pressure that they're going to, experience initially, but that's okay. It too shall pass. And to know that we've been through it. Somebody before us has been through it, and we can have the discussion, and I guess they can experience it through us, what to expect, so to speak, and that it's okay. And like you said, Sandra, that you have to know your worth and not just settle all the time and not think that there's not something better behind the next door.
Yeah. Because I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like when I look at women and nurse practitioners in particular, they all look super burned out and they look tired. And so I went and saw my nurse practitioner. She's my primary healthcare provider. And she looked so tired. And I like told her, I was like, you know that they need you, right? Like, you know your value. And I'm like here to talk to her about like my labs, my cholesterol. But I'm like trying to like amp her up because she just looks so tired. She's a mom. She's tired. Like, I know I was there. I worked full time and had a baby, a C-section baby for 3 months. I was so tanked. And that's what made me go, this has got to start working for me, man. Like, I can't do this anymore. And so when I told her this, she was like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, girl, I just like try to like pump her up because that's what we need. Like more women need to do that for one another because we are trying so hard. We're all trying really hard. When there isn't a lot of encouragement out there, at least that I could find. I wanted to create that community as well.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Every episode is just so empowering and like it's very encouraging. And I think it's like so needed. Like you said, like there's not a lot of, we have each other, but I don't think we realize we have each other. And like the medical doctors, I feel like I don't know if they stick together or whatever, but they have like such a strong community. We need that. And I think that your podcast is like amazing. Like I love it. And I specifically, so the one Ananya, you had for the burnout coach.
Yes.
Your conversation was so amazing. And you talked about the NPs are often conditioned to believe that, like you said before, our earning potential is not beyond the bedside. And that's like so not true. And the more that I think about it and the more that I listen to your podcast, I'm realizing like there's so many different opportunities. It's like amazing. Is there any like one specific or like a few different interviews that you've done that have just been like kind of eye-opening to you and have been like, oh, wow, like this is like so encouraging and like it's going to make me, move even more forward in my career?
Yeah. So I think realizing that it's endless is probably the biggest thing that I've realized through the podcast, right? So when I originally invented it or thought about the process, I remember thinking, I just want to showcase like all the people that I know, because I know a bunch of NPs and they all do different things. And I'm like, I don't think we get this exposure in NP school. Like we don't know. We just think you got to come out and get hired by a hospital. And like, that's what you have to do. And you better hope that one of them likes you. And so it's just like scarcity mindset. Right. And so in one of my favorite episodes, which I can't choose because they're all my favorites. Okay. They're all my favorites. But there are some that really do like stick out, and you start to realize like Jill Weberding's episode, incredibly impressive, like female boss that you leave her interview and you're just like, I can take on the world. Like, let me go find a gap. I'm going to close it. Like I love that interview because of that experience that I had with her. I've also had the opportunity to interview a guy that is a plant medicine nurse practitioner. So everyone's like, plant medicine?
Alicia?
Like, what? Yeah, it's so cool, his podcast, because he describes like where medicine is going. And yeah, it's going to be a super neat episode. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So yeah, we talked mushrooms, we talked CBD. We talked a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, no, that's really cool. That's a really cool episode. And I just think that like, when I talked to Elizabeth, Dr. Winings, and she described her journey to autonomous practice and how easy it was and how she just is like doing her own thing and has her own business, and every story is so inspirational. And I do walk away and I go like, I'm going to go do that. And then I'm going to go do that. And so it's almost contagious to talk to these women and men that are discovering that it is not scarce, the opportunities for nurses, that there is a plethora. It is whatever you make up in your mind. That is what we can do. And so I just find it, I can't pick one. So I hope that answers your question, but I think they're all just so great. And it is hard to not listen to them and go like, I'm going to go do plant medicine. That's cool, So.
And that's exactly how I feel every time I listen to every single one of your episodes. I'm like, yes, this is going to happen. But you had touched on earlier about when you had your child and you went in and you talked to your boss and you were very scared about going in and asking for part-time because you're like, is he going to fire me? Like, what's going to happen? And then you got that validation. Like how did that feel like, and how did it influence like your career?
That was such a good question. I was like, Christina is deep when I read that question. I loved it because I could just tell that like you were getting into the soul of like what was going on inside of me. And you can just imagine like my palms were sweaty. I was just like amped. My neck was all tight as I walked in. And it was so disarming when he was just like, yeah, sounds good. And I was like, what? After the experience that I had in GI, right? I tell you guys that like, I just get fired like out of the blue. You got 3 months, find something to do. And it was just a completely different, we don't want to lose you. So what do you want? And so he spit out a schedule and I said, yes, that's perfect. And yeah, he's been such an incredible boss and just such a support. He just recently had twins. And so I think he might've been low on sleep that day. I don't know. He was so
perfect
cool.
storm.
I took it and ran, girl. I ran.
Good for you. That's awesome.
I think as we get older, flexibility and a sense that we're appreciated becomes so important. When I was younger in jobs, I just was so focused on, I need the job, I need the money, I'm building my life. And I couldn't get out of that cycle for a while. And I actually had a colleague of mine say to me, at some point you have to be satisfied with what you have. And I was like, okay. So I tried that for a little while. And then I realized that it was good to be satisfied where I was at, but I wanted more. And so it drove me to just go, okay, I can be satisfied right now where I am, but now I'm going to take more steps because I think I can do things. I could do more things that will make me happier. It's that old saying of, if you see something that makes you happy, do more of that, whatever that is. And I'm always big on sayings. My kids make fun of me for it. They're like, oh God, here she is with another saying. I'm like, no, this is good. I text it to them, But I think that's part of it too. And that, that keeps the balance because you do, you do at some level become satisfied in what you're doing. And when you're working for somebody who appreciates you, or you're just working in a job that, like, I work for myself, but I have a boss who's so appreciative and it's so delightful. And I tell her, I give it right back to her. I tell her all the time, I appreciate working here. Thank you so much, because this is what I need. This is what everybody wants, to feel validated. That's a normal human thing. You want to feel validated and appreciated, and that what you're doing is the right path or the right thing, and you're contributing somehow. And so those things that you're saying, that's so important. And I think asking for that part-time, that's big. And a lot of people just ask. The worst they could do is say, no, you can't. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have a decision to make. Am I going to stay full-time, or am I going to go find something else that is part-time?
And you knew where I was. Like that was it for me. Like I had reached the point where I knew I was at a breaking point. So it was either ask or it's time to move, because we're no longer happy. And another thing I always have told myself in nursing is, if I'm not happy, it's time to go do something else.
Exactly.
Because I have too many options. So if I'm waking up every morning and I'm dreading this, this isn't, like, again, based on my podcast and just meeting all these crazy nurses that are doing amazing things, also just looking around at all my friends, it's like, there's so many things we could be doing. And so once we start to see that value in ourselves, it begins to come out of us, and people around us will begin to treat us that way. You know?
Yeah.
When you see yourself in that light, you then have people around you that go, okay, I recognize that in her. She's very valuable. So I don't want to treat her with just haphazardness or just look at her as another employee.
That's so good. That's so good that you mentioned about, waking up with dread, because I've definitely been there. And I think all of us have, just waking up in the morning and just dreading going to that job or doing that next thing. And that's when, you had the courage to kind of step out and ask for what you needed and recognize that there was a change, because for your mental sanity, it wasn't going to work anymore. But I think that's so important, as far as recognizing when, like, enough is enough. Like, this can't go on in this way, in this direction, because it's not going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit your patients. It's not going to benefit your future. And just having the courage to see outside the box on what is available. And so, you having all these interviews and all these options and all these different specialties and all these different business men and women in the nursing field is so, so encouraging to see this world view of, this is so much more than what we think or what we were taught. Like it was mentioned before, like, we're not learning this in our master's or even in our DNP programs. Like, I don't know, but it's just to have this community to explore all these options is so encouraging and so uplifting. It's just, it helps you take that next step forward. And when you take a step to be courageous and ask for that, it kind of is like, wow, I did it. And it's like, okay, now you can feel courage to do the next thing that you're faced with, and say, okay, did that work? Did it not work? And keep moving forward. And I think that's a huge thing, is just like moving forward, finding that road, that path that leads to, that satisfaction. I don't believe we have to be miserable, as nurses or as, just, it's not that same treadmill and that hamster wheel. Just, you get up every morning and you're just like, I'm running really fast, but I'm not getting anywhere, because, you recognize that there's something more, like Colleen was saying, and just, pursuing that is so important, and it takes courage. So I commend you.
Thank you. I think when you see others doing it too, right? So remember, we learned about SelfEfficacy in nursing school, right? It's like, oh, when you show someone how to do it, then like they'll have that ability inside themselves to go and do it. Because, you teach one, show one, teach one, whatever.
Do one. Yeah.
I don't know what the saying was, but I just remember that. Yeah. Like when you see
one, do one, teach one.
That's it.
That's the saying. Yeah. So whenever you can see it happening, then you start to go like, this doesn't seem so far out of reach when I actually know people, or I'm actually hearing stories of people doing it. It just feels so much more attainable. It's something that you just wrap your head around and you go like, again, I love this quote about fear and letting fear hold you back. And so moving into fear, whatever it is, that thing that you do fear is where you should be moving. And so that day at my clinic that I practice in, I moved towards fear. And I just want that to be an encouragement to everyone. Like, whatever it is that you're fearing, if you're scared, like, oh, I don't want to ask them, they're not going to let me. It's just like, go ask. That is the thing to go ask. Like, let that be your flag for like awareness. Right. Like, oh, I'm afraid. it's probably where you need to go.
Exactly.
That's it.
Right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Which is hard.
Yeah. We were just talking about that before you came on, because I'm reading this book. Well, I'm trying to get through it because I have a problem. Sometimes I start a book and then I don't always finish it, or I'm reading 2 or 3 books at the same time. But like, I started this book called Do It Afraid. Yeah. And, it just comes at such a perfect time, because it's talking about fear as just this tormenting and paralyzing element that sometimes it's a mindset, and sometimes a lot of the fears are so irrational. Like, it's either, you're fearing that you'll suffer from something, or you'll be embarrassed by something, or there's something there in your mind that you think is real, when really it is kind of an indication like that's where you should be kind of headed. And yet to conquer that and to overcome that is so freeing.
It is freeing.
And it just opens up, really the destiny. Like, it's really talking about your purpose and your destiny. And as you overcome those, fears, it opens up your life to what it's supposed to be, the purpose, and just not to look at fear as, something that has to stop you, but actually fear, as something you can overcome. Just every day, it's like, okay, looking at fear in the face and just saying, okay, you can still do it even in the face of it. Because it's not like we'll never feel fear, because we will, in different chapters in our life, but just not letting that remain stuck and stagnant is the key. Maybe
instead of stopping us, we should let it drive us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. 100% agree. And I read a book by Tim Ferriss called, is it Tim Ferriss or Ferrazzi? It's one of those guys. They're talking about, I think it's in the 4-Hour Work Week, and he is describing fear, and he talks about whatever it is that you are afraid of, move towards that. And so, like, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, but that's where I got the idea was from that guy. And that's why I was like, oh, Sandra, like, that's been a theme here. Like, pay attention. Like, those moments of fear, that's where you need to be. And so every time I'm like, I'm afraid to TikTok, it's like, time to TikTok, like,
I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Just going to do it. Right. It's going to look ridiculous. Do it anyway.
I'm going to dance. I don't know.
I'm an elder millennial. It's fine.
Yeah. Do it afraid. And it breaks the power it has over you. Yeah, it
breaks it. So now I love it. I'm like, looking at my kid, I'm like, okay, mama's got to go TikTok. See you later. You got 5 minutes, And so it's just fun now. It's just, I don't know. I just think that it's not easy, but it's something that I think that the more you practice living in that, the more comfortable you get. And then you realize it's not that scary when you get there and you turn the lights on, and it was this dark little corner that you were so afraid of. And when you flip the lights on and you see, okay, this was worst case scenario, it's not that scary. Like you said,
you're still alive, right?
Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just going to say, I can remember the fear of giving someone a bed bath. That almost made me drop out of nursing school. I was like, I can't do it.
I think there's a lot of growth in fear, right? Because whenever you move towards fear, and either you have failure or you have success, whichever one, I feel like you create a level of empathy and connection to people that you would not have necessarily had you not moved into the fear. If you're very comfortable, you never can relate to people suffering, because you've never moved towards a fear, right? If you're always comfortable. So fear really is the catalyst for growth. And so as you moved towards and you took care of people, and then that ended up coming back to you, and you were like, wow, like, this is so vital. Why was I so afraid of this? And then you see the true impact it has. I think that you start to see a level of growth, not just in yourself, but in those around you. And so, you have to move towards fear. Fear is everything.
Yeah.
Broadens
the perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another thing that you and Ananya discussed was the all or nothing mentality. Did you ever have that mentality? And when did that shift for you?
So all or nothing. And I wanted to clarify this question. Did you mean work-life balance, or did you mean, what about what I said? These are my words. What about the things that I said stuck out to you?
I think that, either you could have this or you could have that. You can't have it all. I think that's what I meant.
Yeah. I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying about work-life balance and realizing that it might not look like what you originally wanted, but it will be the best that you can do. And so, for example, even though I took a part-time job, I'm not making an incredible nurse practitioner salary anymore, right? So even though I have a part-time job, which again, I could supplement with other jobs and other things if I wanted to get my salary up, I could. But for right now, yes, I have time with my son. And for me, that is something I cannot measure in dollars. That's priceless to me. But my lifestyle may look differently. So yes, I used to be like the, big baller nurse practitioner, drive in, with a brand new car, do whatever I wanted, big time balling. And then now I'm like, oh, no, we can't do that. But for me, like, even though it didn't look like, meaning big time balling anymore, in certain ways, I'm balling in other ways. I'm enjoying, and I have more quote unquote wealth in other ways. And so that's probably what I mean. If you can have it all. I am an NP. I do get to take care of patients, and I do get to spend a good amount of time with my son and my family. And that's important to me, but it doesn't always look the exact same way. I have changed my lifestyle to make sure that fits with me feeling wealthy, because wealthy looks different for everyone, right? Like,
exactly.
And so I think that's what I mean by that. Hopefully that's what I mean by what I said.
That's great.
But yeah, you can have it all. It's just, it might look different. And to not have a scarcity mindset and to look back and help others is probably another thing too, that I think, as a side note, NPs don't do, or just nurses in general. I feel like we have this eat your young type mentality. And so I think sometimes it goes into the nurse practitioner role a little bit. And so one of the things I like to encourage, and I've read in a lot of business books, is the more you give, the more you receive. And so you think like, oh, I gotta, hoard this little thing away and just keep it close to the chest and not share it with anyone. And it's like, no, I have to tell people that, like, you can tell your boss if you're unhappy, you can go part-time.
Right.
And they'll probably keep you. Like,
yes.
So you don't have to be this burned out mom. Like, you need to know, like, there are NPs out there that are working part-time and that are happy. And they don't have it, quote unquote, all. You might not have it all, but that wealth might look different for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've got where I'm at, I've got a provider who, works nonstop. I mean, nonstop. And he was one of the, providers where I work. So he was in my interview, and he just made sure he wanted me to be aware that I would not see life outside of work. So, but in a way where he was trying to warn me, be prepared. And he'll walk around and he'll say, live in the dream, as he's sulking, live in the dream. And I'm like, my goodness, what's happening? What am
It's not my dream.
I can't be that way. No, this is not okay.
Yeah.
But I get it, what we talk about burnout, I mean, it's a reality, but it doesn't have to be your reality.
Yeah.
I guess I was just thinking, it's like setting a boundary for yourself. And each person has to define what that boundary is, and, defining what that wealth looks like, because there's certain things that are invaluable, like being there with your children, being at their first, thing going on at school, and being there for their games, and being, because you can't get, that's precious time you can't get back. There's no monetary value to put on that. And so each person has to definitely define, what does success look like for me? I mean, if it's solely for the money, yeah, it's there. You can pursue that and you can be driven for that. But what are you going to lose, of your life? Is it worth that? And so, yeah, for sure. I don't live in the dream. For sure. You can live the dream. It doesn't have to be dictated by other people. And I think that's something that, you presenting in all these different areas of nursing and business and specialty areas of just, pursuing what is your dream, and making it happen is just, it's empowering and it's freeing, and it's just, it can be life-changing. But definitely setting boundaries, I think, healthy boundaries, you going part-time and things like that, and saying, this is what's going to be good for me, and this is what I'm going to move towards. And yeah, it's awesome.
So one of the big things that I've been noticing with all these conversations that I'm having is people's journeys and enjoying the journey. You're not just a workhorse. You're not just a mom. You're not just one thing. You're an accumulation of all these things. And so taking the time to enjoy and being present where you are is, I'm finding the thing that all of them keep saying. And it's just this common theme that I just see reverberating in every conversation, is just being present in the journey and paying attention to the little micro decisions, the little times, the little moments, the little whispers. Because if I wasn't listening to myself, I would have been thinking, I just need to keep making money for my family because that's really what we need. We need more stuff. We need more this. We need more that. And I just got quiet with myself and I said, I'm not sleeping. I need sleep. I'm not doing these little things for myself. And this could change with one decision. And sometimes it is that simple. It's as simple as just going like, I need to make a change here. I can't keep just living in my life, but not enjoying the journey.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's something that I've kind of seen throughout these conversations, is to enjoy the journey, and whatever that looks like for you, to look back on your one life that you have, you've got to do.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
I agree. I do have one question that I didn't ask, but it's something completely unrelated to some of the discussions that we've had. But I just thought it's something that our listeners might benefit from. And that was, you had mentioned in your interview with Scrub Caps and Sippy Cups that you precept students. And I'm just curious to know, so precepting is an interesting thing. It's always hard. It's hard when you're an NP student to find a preceptor. There's a lot of people who don't want to do it. So I was curious about what this experience has been like for you. What do you love about it? And what do you hate about it?
Yeah. So I've taken NP students since I was a baby NP. And I think it's really important, like I said, to give back. And I've always been open to like having people shadow and follow me. I've had no problem with that. Actually, the last student that I had went into urology. And it's just so cool that like somebody that I precepted and spent some time with me was like, I'm going to go do what you do. And I was like, what? And so, yeah, she liked what I did with my current job. And so that was really neat. I like precepting students. One of the things that I like about NP students in particular is that, especially one that's, that the last one I just had was a go-getter. I mean, she was a new mom. She was a hustler. So like she would be messaging me back, which now I understand, being a mom myself, at like 1 a.m. She'd message me back. And I'm like, at the time I didn't have children. So I would get up the next morning and look at my phone. And I was like, she messaged me at 2 a.m. And now I'm like, oh, now I know. But she was that kind of personality. And it just makes it so easy when they're like that. Because you just get to just show them the ropes, Right. And that was one of the things that I just wanted to expose her to as much as possible. Because that's what I think those precepting experiences should be about. It's just like, let me expose you to everything. Yeah. And then you can decide what sticks, at least in my job.
Yeah.
So there's something that my girlfriend actually recently introduced me to, and I meant to look it up before the podcast, so forgive me. But it's called NP Hub is what it's called, because I've always precepted for free. I've never felt like I ever needed to get any compensation for that. It was just like of my own goodwill. And I don't even think I took like board credits for it, because I think that's part of your board certification is if you precept. But it's called NP Hub, where you can actually go on and register your job as like, this is what I do. And they will interview you and they will put you on a registry, and students can sign up with you and you can get paid.
That's amazing.
I did not know. Yes. How great is this? Like, again,
right?
Morsels everywhere.
Yeah.
We do not need to feel freaked out that we can't make money some way, right? So you sign up, you share your specialty, and then they hook you up with students. And then if you have a really easy, accessible job, they'll actually pay you a set amount per student, and you can take as many as you want on, and you can get paid per student, which was pretty cool. So check them out, NP Hub, shameless plug. I don't work for them.
It's all good.
Actually, I've signed up, but I haven't even gotten really started with them. But that's a way to actually monetize precepting students. So you can actually get credit and get paid for it, which is pretty cool.
I love it. That's great.
That's amazing. Wow.
You know what I wish they had for like now I'm a new nurse practitioner. I would love to go and hang out with a nurse practitioner in my own clinical, just for me to go learn and be more comfortable. Because sometimes by the time you take your boards, if you haven't had like now I'm already a year out from clinical rotations, more than a year out, actually. I'm like a year and a half out from clinical rotations. And so it's like, I'm not in that. I don't really remember what that's like. It would be nice if we could support each other in that way too, to go, hey, why don't you come spend a day or two with me, see what I do, or even just an opportunity to try different fields.
Yes.
To say, what I would totally follow Christina around all day. I would be completely interested in GI to see what she does and what that's like. And is that something that I would like to do? Or go see somebody, urology also is always, you always have those body systems on your list that you go, I would never do that, but I might do this and I might do that and I might do this.
Exactly. So, the exposure.
Yeah. It would be so nice if we could have something like that out in the world.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, this company that you can pick clinical, settings. I was like, man, that's so cool. Because when I went to school for my master's degree, that was, 8-9 years ago. So like I didn't get to pick like where I went for clinicals. I got told like, you're going to go here, you're going to go there. And so again, a very myopic view of what I could do.
Right.
And so when I came out and I literally accepted the first job, like my first job interview I was like, all right, I'll go be a GI nurse practitioner.
Right. Yeah.
Knowing this much about what the job was going to entail. And again, there's an element of what I was describing earlier of just kind of sleepwalking through that job and not really knowing like, how do I generate money? How do I, I was just kind of like, well, my boss will tell me what to do and I'll do what my boss tells me what to do. And it's a very almost bedside nurse type mentality of like, I'll just do whatever my nurse manager tells me to do. I come in, somebody gives me my assignment. I do my assignment.
Right. The doctor gives the orders. Yeah. I'm just here moving through the day, doing what's on my list of tasks. Yeah.
Yes. And then when I got fired, it was a very big wake up call of like, are you paying attention?
Yeah.
No,
you didn't get fired. You got promoted.
You got laid off because they had a poor business model. That's what happened.
Yes,
you were definitely not fired.
Yes, no, that's what happened. And yeah, it's like hard. Like when I try to like word it a different way, I don't want people to be like, oh, she's trying to sugarcoat it. Like it's like I'll just like detail it the worst possible, and then I'll let everybody else make it sound a little bit better.
It felt like you got fired, but it was really their own poor business management.
Exactly. That's what happened. So, but it was the best. And it was so funny. I'll tell you another story. I ran into him like 8 months pregnant, my chief, and he sees me coming down the hall and he's like, I thought, where? And I looked at him and I said, thank you for firing me. And he was like, what? And I was like, you did me. And of course he was like, we didn't fire you. We let you go because of a poor business model. But that, I was still like thankful that he did it because he tossed me and propelled me into something that I would have, again, been taking the crumbs from the king's table thinking that I was full and there was so much more out there. So
sometimes the universe shows us where we need to go. If you're not making that move yourself, something big is going to change and you're going to be forced. And I know in my own experience, when those times have happened for me at my lowest, I came out better than I was before I went in. So
yeah.
Yep. All the time.
Yeah, I do believe it works that way.
All the time.
Yep.
Can't keep a good nurse down.
Yep.
I love that. Should get that on a shirt.
We should.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, yeah. I love that. I would buy that shirt. See? Look, right there. Money, right there.
Damn. That's so funny.
Love it. No, seriously. You might want to copyright that and like.
Okay. Yeah. Let's timestamp really this. Timestamp this.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. I wrote it down.
Really that's right. I like that.
Okay, so we ready to go into our last?
Yes.
So, Sandra, you incorporate rapid fire questions into your podcast, and we'd like to ask you your own rapid fire questions right back at you.
I thought that was great.
So we'll start with the first. So what is your most used emoji?
Oh, so I like the ones with the hands that come together, like, yes, girl. Like, I like those a lot. I don't know what they are, like praise hands or like jazz fingers. I don't know. I love them.
That's awesome. And are you currently reading a book, and which one?
Okay, so I'm currently reading The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. So again, I think one of the things lacking for nursing school is an understanding of business and selling. And yeah, we work in healthcare and it's a business. So yeah, I really have gotten into that. So I'm reading The Psychology of Selling right now.
Interesting. Okay. And what is your hidden talent or something people would be shocked to find out about you?
So I started playing piano. I played as a little girl, but of course you never stick with it. I started playing piano again at the age of 35. So I decided I wanted to learn how to play.
That's awesome.
And again, fear. I said, I'm going to move forward. So yeah, I'm learning to play piano.
I'm there with you on that same journey, actually. I've got like my little keyboard in the back right here next. Yes, it's never too late. Cool. That's something, yeah. And as nurses, like we can do anything. Why not? You know, it's never too late. It's never too late to be what you want to be and to do what you can become. That's awesome.
I agree.
Wonderful.
Christina, did you have one more rapid fire question?
Oh, I did, but it wasn't on your list. But I wanted to know what's on your Apple or Spotify playlist.
Oh, so hilariously, I have made a playlist for my kid, and it's called Benjamin's Jams. And it has like all the funny like little songs that he likes, like the Zootopia, Try Everything. And he literally requests for it when we get in the car. So he starts singing one of the songs. And so that's probably been my latest playlist. Is literally called Benjamin's Jams.
I love it.
So all right. It's songs. How lame. I'm sorry, Christina. That's
not at all. Not at all.
He's two. He's two. As he gets a little older, I used to do that with my kids, but then I would start incorporating like a song that I would like, and my kids would be like, because they know like the list of the songs they're expecting, and so I would throw like a Beatles song in there or like Jethro Tull, and they would be like, "What is this?" And then after a while, they would like sing it.
They'd request that.
That's genius. Right. I'm doing that immediately. I'm doing that.
See if he looks at you like, wait, what is this? This isn't supposed to be what happens next. Right. It's not on the playlist. I'd be like, no.
This is Mommy's song.
It's Mommy's song, and you're going to listen to this now. I get a turn. It's my turn.
I can only listen to so much Coco Melon, and then I'm just like, enough. Please.
So much fun. Oh, gosh. Enjoy him at a great age. Yeah.
I agree.
Sandra, thank you for coming on our podcast. Yeah. You're amazing. We love you, and can't wait to hear more.
Thank you.
Where can we find you? Like what social media?
Yeah. So I am on, let's start from the top. I am anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts, I'm there. And it's the Dr. Nurse Podcast. And then I'm on Instagram, the Dr. Nurse Podcast. And I think you could find me also on LinkedIn. I think that's my personal page, which is, Dr. Sandra Pagenta. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you're a nurse practitioner and you think you have a really cool job, which we all do, then message me and let me hear your story, hear your journey to how you got to where you are. Because clearly from this conversation today, you can tell which makes me kind of emotional to hear it is affecting people around you, and they're hearing your stories and your journeys, and you're changing people's minds and you're changing people's lives. And so I just think that's really incredible. So yeah, I'm not going to get emotional. It's too late. The ship has already sailed. Reach out. And if you just want to say, whatever, just want to chat, I'm always open to talk to whoever. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh,
wonderful.
It's so great talking to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Stay safe.
Good luck.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to us and give us 5 stars.
If you have any ideas or comments, please message us at 4npspodcast@gmail.com.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 4NPs Podcast. That's the number 4NPS Podcast. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast, and go to our website at 4npspodcast.com for episode transcripts, resources, and more information about us.
Please join us on our next episode where we speak to Linda Ruda. Linda Ruda is an amazing nurse practitioner. She has a resume that runs a mile long. Some of those accomplishments include working as a nurse practitioner in the urgent care, in the emergency department. She has been a nursing instructor and has been the director of the nurse practitioner program at the school that we all attended for both our master's and our bachelor's degrees. It was so nice to catch up with her. She has so much valuable information for nurse practitioners, and we hope you enjoy the episode. The information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be used in substitute for professional care by a medical provider. The information in this podcast does not represent medical or other professional advice or services. The thoughts and opinions presented on the 4NP's podcast are of the hosts and guests and do not represent those of their employers.